I think we may have time for maybe one last question, because I want to make sure you get a chance to mob Dory post the program if you'd like. And we have aptly the final question of the evening from a man in the audience, so please introduce yourself and your question. And before that, give them a hand for asking the question. Thank you.
Hi, I am a man, and no, thanks. This is a really helpful, really great session. And my name is Jack. I moved to Singapore about 3 months ago, and I'm looking around the room. There are other men in the room, so this is a good question for all of us, is that how can we, even though there's 10 of us here, help with everything that you just talked about?
That's great. Thanks, Jack. Well, I think that one of the ways that I would answer that, and it is a really terrific question to ask, is that there is in many quarters, and some would say, you guys are the Singaporeans, so you can tell me if this is true. Many people say that in Asia in particular, which is a culture that values humility and modesty and all of that, that personal branding in general is not necessarily the most natural fit. And I like to push back that there are many stripes, there are many varieties of personal branding. It does not have to be the kind of aggressive, full-on assault that many people imagine it to be. But even having the discussion about it is something that makes some people uncomfortable. And it's, I don't want to hear about that. And so I think that the one thing that all of us can do, men as well as women, is to open up the conversation around personal brand. Because for me, the reason that this has resonance, the reason that I think this is a good idea, is that personal branding is the ultimate form of meritocracy. And here's what I mean by that. If you are waiting to just, get noticed. So some people think that's meritocracy because you get noticed for the quality of your work. That's great, but really what happens is that it's an accident of where your boss's eye is trained, and for whatever reason, their eye may not be trained on you, and things don't work out, and it's a disappointment. And for me, that's tragic. Because you want talent. In the best of all possible worlds, you want talent to come to the top. You want it to surface. And so having a well-developed personal brand, for me, that is the ultimate form of career insurance. It is a meritocracy because it means that when there is talent within people, it does get noticed. Because it's not the accident of whether you have a good boss or a bad boss, or an observant boss or one that's not. You are recognized more broadly, and it means that you have options and that people can really appreciate that. So that's one piece. The second piece, Jack, that I would say is that going back to some of the early slides that I was talking about with the likability conundrum and things like that, it is the place where this is a specific challenge for women is that oftentimes, above and beyond, the challenge of personal branding for anyone, which is what do I want to be known for? How do I get known for it? For women, there are often higher expectations and a narrower range of options. Women are expected to be nice and sweet and nurturing. And in the minute that they're not, whether that's perceived or whether that's just them saying, look, that actually wasn't a well-written report, we need you to do it again, everyone's like, oh, dragon lady. And it's unfair double standards at some times. And so if all of us, but especially men, can be cognizant of that and to try to push back against that, to try to open up the space of what is permissible in terms of leadership roles and styles for women, I think that would be a real victory. So thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, was it in Cisco, the CEO of Cisco, after he read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In? In Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg talked about if men are aggressive, they're leaders. If women are aggressive, they're being bossy. And then the CEO of Cisco read that book, and he had a town hall because they've adopted Lean In as a strategy within the company, and he said, we henceforth will not be calling the women bossy in our company, which a lot of women seem to have appreciated. But on a more personal note, let me share a quick anecdote before we wrap up that hasn't been shared before. The entire Women in Leadership program was launched not just because I wanted for it to launch, but because there's a man in the room here called Steve, whose office I walked into and I said, I want to do this program and I'm not leaving till you let me. And he says, sure. I don't know whether it had more to do with the fact that he didn't want me to be in his room anymore, or the fact that he is a visionary who can see the potential of a good idea. But I think that's another great way that I think men can come out and support women in the the programs they might want to launch or activities they might want to undertake, because statistically there are more men in leadership positions than there are women. So actively lending their support, visibly lending their support, even if it is a one word, sure, like Steve did, does go a very long way. So thank you very much for coming tonight. Thank you, Dory. We really, really learned a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you all.